Imagine being trapped, not in a prison, not in a basement, but in an airport terminal for 18 years. This is the true story of Mehran Karimi Nasseri, the man who became a ghost living in Charles de Gaulle Airport, a man who inspired Steven Spielberg's The Terminal, but whose real life was far stranger and darker than any Hollywood movie. His story begins with a lost passport. It ends with a question that will haunt you. When you finally get the chance to leave, would you take it? August 26, 1988, Paris, France. A 43-year-old Iranian man walks into Terminal 1 of Charles de Gaulle Airport carrying a single briefcase. His name is Mehran Karimi Nasseri. He has a ticket to London. He has refugee papers from Belgium. He has a plan to start a new life in Britain, the country where his mother was supposedly born. But something is about to go catastrophically wrong. Born in 1945 in the oil-rich town of Majed Suleiman, Iran, Mehran grew up in relative privilege. His father was a doctor working for the Anglo-Persian Oil Company. The family had money, stability, comfort. But Mehran's life was built on a secret. He wasn't his father's legitimate son. He claimed his mother was a Scottish nurse, though some accounts say she was Swedish. The truth remains murky, lost in Mehran's own conflicting stories over the years. In 1973, at age 28, Mehran left Iran to study Yugoslav studies at the University of Bradford in England. When he returned to Iran in 1977, everything changed. He claimed he was expelled for protesting against the Shah of Iran. Whether this is true or not, no one can verify. Records don't support his claim. But what is certain is this: Mehran wanted to find his British mother, to claim British citizenship, to escape Iran forever. So, in 1988, he set out on a journey that would trap him in limbo for nearly 2 decades. Here's where the story gets strange, and here's where different versions emerge. Version 1. Mehran boards a train from Brussels to Paris. At the Paris train station, someone steals his briefcase containing his refugee certificate and identity papers. Everything gone. Version 2. The one some investigators believe. Mehran deliberately mailed his documents back to Brussels while on a ferry, then made up the theft story. Why would anyone do that? We'll get to that in a moment. But first, let's talk about what happened next. Without his documents, Mehran still boards a flight to London. He thinks he can explain the situation to British immigration officials. He thinks they'll let him in. He thinks wrong. The British take one look at this Iranian man with no documents, no passport, no proof of identity, and they send him right back to France. Now, Mehran is standing in Charles de Gaulle Airport. No documents. No country will take him. France arrested him, but then realized, we can't deport him anywhere. He technically entered the airport legally. He's not breaking any laws by being here. But he also can't leave. The French authorities make a decision that will define the next 18 years of Mehran's life. He can stay in the airport, in the international transit zone, but he cannot enter France. He cannot leave. He is trapped in a space that technically belongs to no country, a legal ghost in a 200-meter stretch of Terminal 1. And here's the truly mind-bending part. Some people think he wanted this. August 1988. Mehran Karimi Nasseri finds a red bench near the Paris Bye-Bye Bar in Terminal 1. This bench becomes his home. He arranges his luggage around it like walls, creating a semblance of privacy in a space where thousands of people pass by every single day. He sleeps with his bags beside him, always within reach. Protection, possession, his entire world. The airport staff start to notice him. At first, they're confused, then concerned, then familiar. They give him a nickname, Sir Alfred. The name came from a mistake British immigration officials made on his documents years earlier, listing him as Alfred Mehran. Mehran loved this. He started calling himself Sir Alfred Mehran, comma included, as if it were a title. Days turn into weeks. Weeks turn into months. Mehran develops a routine. Every morning, he wakes up on his red bench. He walks to McDonald's, where kind strangers and airport staff buy him meals. Sometimes they give him meal vouchers. Sometimes they slip him money. He spends hours reading, mountains of newspapers and magazines collected from all over the airport. He reads in English, French, Persian, keeping himself connected to a world he can no longer be part of. He writes constantly, journals filled with his thoughts, his fears, his observations of the travelers who rush past him on their way to destinations he can never reach. He listens to the radio on a small device, classical music, news, anything to fill the endless hours. And he smokes his gold pipe, a small luxury, a reminder that he was once someone else. The airport becomes his universe. He knows every gate, every shop, every security guard, every cleaning crew schedule. He watches planes take off to places he'll never see. He watches families reunite. He watches businessmen rush to meetings. He watches lovers say goodbye. And nobody really sees him. He becomes invisible, a fixture like the benches, the signs, the baggage carousels, just part of the airport's landscape. But he is being seen by some. Enter Christian Bourget, a French Heim rights lawyer who hears about this man living in an airport and decides to take his case. The legal situation is a Kafkaesque nightmare. Mehran technically entered France legally before his documents disappeared, so France cannot forcibly remove him. But without proper papers, France also won't let him officially enter France. Belgium granted him refugee status in 1981, but they'll only issue new documents if Mehran presents himself in person in Belgium. But Mehran can't travel to Belgium without documents. In 1992, a French court rules that Mehran cannot be expelled because he entered the country legally. Victory, right? Wrong. The ruling doesn't give him permission to actually enter France. He remains stuck in the airport. Then, in 1995, a breakthrough. Belgian authorities say they'll issue him documents, but only if he agrees to live in Belgium under the supervision of a social worker. Mehran refuses. Why? Because he wants to go to Britain. That was always the plan. He's convinced his mother is British, convinced he has a right to British citizenship, convinced that going to Belgium would mean giving up on his dream. So he stays, on his red bench in his 200-meter world. More offers come. France offers him residency. He refuses because the papers list him as Iranian, not British, and they won't use his preferred name, Sir Alfred Mehran, with that comma he insists on. Belgium offers again. He refuses again. People start to wonder, does he want to leave? Or has he become so comfortable, so institutionalized that the airport is the only home he can imagine anymore? Dr. Philippe Bargan, the airport's medical director, becomes deeply concerned. He says Mehran has fossilized on his bench, that leaving the airport after 11 years at that point would be like throwing him from his horse, a shock his psyche might not survive. A ticket agent who becomes Mehran's friend worries he's incapable of living on the outside. The years pile up. 1995, 1996, 1997, 1998. Mehran Karimi Nasseri has now lived in Charles de Gaulle Airport for a decade, and the world is starting to pay attention. 1993, a French film called Lost in Transit is released, inspired by Mehran's story. 1999, Mehran is finally granted official permission to leave the airport. He can travel freely across Europe. But here's the twist nobody expected. He doesn't want to go. When asked why, Mehran says something chilling. "I think nobody can live 11 years in such a situation. I am a unique immigration case." Dr. Bargan tries to explain the psychological damage. He is scared to leave this bubble world he's been living in. Finally getting the papers has been a huge shock to him, as if he was just thrown from his horse. When you wait 11 years for something, and suddenly in a few minutes you sign some papers and it's done, imagine what a shock that is. He'll have to be weaned from the airport, like an addict really. Think about that. Mehran has lived in this airport so long that freedom itself has become terrifying. The outside world, with its responsibilities, its complexities, its vastness, is more frightening than remaining trapped in 200 meters. The year 2000 arrives. Millennium celebrations happen around the globe. Mehran watches them on airport TV screens. Then comes the moment that will make him internationally famous. 2003.
Steven Spielberg's production company DreamWorks contacts Mehran. They want to buy the rights to his story. They offer him $250,000. Mehran signs the deal. The next year, The Terminal, starring Tom Hanks, is released. The film is loosely based on Mehran's life. Tom Hanks plays Viktor Navorsky, a man stuck at JFK Airport after his fictional country Krakosia undergoes a coup. But here's what the movie gets wrong. Viktor Navorsky wants to leave the airport. He has a mission, a purpose, a reason to endure. And when his ordeal is over, he walks away into a new life. Mehran's reality is far darker, because Mehran doesn't want to leave. The airport has become his identity, his purpose, his entire existence. Spielberg never officially acknowledged Mehran as the inspiration, but the connection is obvious. And Mehran himself starts carrying a poster for The Terminal with his luggage, showing it to curious travelers. He also publishes an autobiography in 2004 called The Terminal Man, co-written with British author Andrew Donkin. The Sunday Times reviews it as profoundly disturbing and brilliant. Documentaries are made, journalists from around the world interview him, an opera called Flight by composer Jonathan Dove premieres, inspired by his story. Mehran Karimi Nasseri is famous, but he's still sleeping on a red bench in Terminal 1, and he's been there for 16 years. July 2006. After 18 years of living in Charles de Gaulle Airport, Mehran Karimi Nasseri's makeshift home is finally dismantled. Not because he chooses to leave, because he collapses. An unspecified illness sends him to the hospital. While he's gone, airport authorities dismantle his red bench residence, removing the luggage walls that had defined his existence for nearly 2 decades. When Mehran is released from the hospital in January 2007, the French Red Cross takes over his care. They put him in a hotel near the airport. Then, in March 2007, he's transferred to an Emmaus Charity Reception Center in Paris. For the first time since 1988, Mehran Karimi Nasseri is living in the real world. But he's not adjusting well. From 2008 onwards, he lives in various Paris shelters. He's given medical care, social support, a roof over his head. Everything he supposedly wanted for so many years. But something is broken inside him. The world outside the airport doesn't make sense anymore. It's too big, too complicated, too overwhelming. People who knew him say he seems lost, disconnected, like a part of him died when he left Terminal 1. The years pass. 2010, 2015, 2020. Then comes September 2022. Airport staff at Charles de Gaulle notice someone familiar, sitting on a bench in a public area, surrounded by luggage. It's Mehran. He's back. After 16 years away, after finally escaping the airport that imprisoned him, after being given the freedom so many fought to get him, Mehran Karimi Nasseri has voluntarily returned to Charles de Gaulle Airport. Some say he became homeless and had nowhere else to go. Others say he simply couldn't stay away, that the airport was the only place that ever made sense to him. He's 77 years old now. His hair is white. His body is frail. But he's home. November 12th, 2022. Terminal 2F. Mehran Karimi Nasseri suffers a heart attack around midday. Airport police and medical teams rush to help him. They try everything, but it's too late. Mehran dies in the airport he called home for 18 years. He dies in the place he could never truly leave, even when he physically left. The man who lived in airports for 18 years takes his final flight.